This song is about someone I once loved. A man who turned his back on me when money came. But still, I thank God, because what I lost in him, I found in myself. Before I continue, my dear friends, please take a moment to hit the subscribe button, like, and share this video with your loved ones. Your support means the world to me. Thank you so much. My people, sometimes, the person you love the most can become the one who tries to break you. But God has a way of turning pain into power. Where the bad guys finally get what's coming to them, not because of revenge, but because they simply ran out of good luck. This is one of those times. It's about a girl named Maya, a guy named Ken, and trust me, you're going to hate Ken and the most disastrously beautiful wedding performance the world has ever seen. Grab your tissues, maybe some popcorn, because this is going to be a long, sweet ride. We're talking about real human feelings, real betrayal, and the kind of musical justice that launches a career into the stratosphere. Ken thought he was setting a trap. Honey, he was launching a rocket. Let me tell you about Maya. If you saw her on the street, you'd probably just think, sweet girl. She had this quiet grace, you know. But when she opened her mouth to sing, it was like the whole world tilted. Her voice wasn't just powerful, it was honest. It sounded like heartache and hope had a baby, and that baby was a soaring, crystalline note. But here's the thing, talent isn't enough. Maya had been grinding for years, coffee shops, local bars, sending out demos that disappeared into the internet black hole. She wasn't desperate, but she was tired. She was running low on cash, surviving on sheer artistic stubbornness, and living in a tiny apartment where the fridge usually contained one half-eaten container of sad takeout. She was an artist who needed a break, but the universe seemed to be keeping its hands firmly in its pockets. Now, let's talk about Ken. Ken was the kind of man who measured his worth in dollar signs and how many people he could intimidate. He wasn't just handsome, he was flawlessly groomed, driving a car that cost more than Maya's entire musical equipment, and wearing tailored suits that screamed success. He and Maya dated for almost 2 years, and initially, Ken loved the idea of having a struggling artist on his arm. It made him feel like a patron. But Ken's love was conditional. He controlled the narrative. When Maya started getting serious about pushing her music, Ken turned sour. He'd scoff at her songwriting, call her gigs cute little hobbies, and constantly remind her that without his connections, which he never provided, she was nothing. His goal wasn't to support her, it was to keep her small enough to feel superior. The end wasn't a sad goodbye, it was a detonation. Maya finally scored a meeting with a reputable, small-time label executive. She was ecstatic. She told Ken, hoping for a shred of genuine pride. Instead, he scoffed. Seriously, Maya, they're going to chew you up and spit you out. You should focus on finding a real job. The final straw came the next day. Ken, using a technical loophole from a minor legal document she had signed while they were together related to a shared apartment lease, managed to freeze access to her small savings account for a crucial week, the week she needed for travel and materials for that executive meeting. She missed the meeting. She lost the opportunity. When she confronted him, his reply was chillingly clinical. I just saved you from a heartbreak, darling. And don't call me. I'm marrying Serena now. He didn't just end the relationship, he tried to steal her dream and her financial footing simultaneously. That pain wasn't just heartbreak, it was the sting of calculated malice. 2 years passed. Maya was still scraping by, teaching guitar lessons and doing background vocals, but she was healing. She'd turned the pain into a magnificent, unreleased album's worth of music. Then, the email arrived. It was from Ken's new wife, Serena, but Maya knew Ken was behind the entire thing. The subject line was saccharine, wedding entertainment inquiry, Ken and Serena. The body of the email was brief, offering a paltry sum, barely enough to cover her transport and one mediocre dinner, to sing during the cocktail hour. The instructions were specific. One generic, romantic cover. Nothing original. Dress code. Professional black, no attention-grabbing elements. Ken's intention was clear as glass. He wanted her there, on display, looking like the hired help, forced to sing about love she didn't have, for money she desperately needed, while he basked in his supposed triumph. Maya almost deleted the email. Her best friend, Liam, looked at the contract and just about threw his phone across the room. "Maya, don't do this. And this is emotional warfare. He wants you broken." And Liam was absolutely right. But necessity is a harsh mistress, my friends. Her rent was due. Her beloved vintage acoustic guitar needed an expensive repair. And honestly, there was a tiny, defiant spark in her heart. She thought, I will show up, I will be professional, I will take his cheap money, and I will leave with my head held high. It wasn't desperation that made her sign, it was the warrior's need for survival and the artist's compulsion to honor a commitment, no matter how toxic the source. She signed the contract, the digital signature feeling like a pact with the devil. Ken was delighted. He showed the contract to his groomsmen, chuckling. "Look, fellas. 2 years later, and the little songbird is singing for scraps at my wedding. She'll be up there, looking all nervous and thin. She'll sing her one song, maybe stammer through a thank you, and everyone will see her for what she is, a struggling failure. It's perfect. It proves I was right to leave her." He had meticulously planned the timing. The moment she was scheduled to perform was right when the most important investors and society friends would be arriving, ensuring maximum witness count for her planned shame. He had instructed the bandleader to keep her set short and unmemorable. Ken wasn't just celebrating his marriage, he was celebrating the destruction of a woman he had once pretended to love. The wedding venue was obscene. I mean, breathtakingly obscene. It was a historic estate on a hillside overlooking the ocean, draped in thousands of white roses, costing more than most people's retirement funds. Maya pulled up in a borrowed, slightly beat-up sedan. She was wearing the required black dress, simple, elegant, and professional. But as she walked past the valet line of Ferraris and Bentleys, a wave of sickness hit her. The air was thick with the perfume of wealth and Ken's overwhelming ego. She spotted Ken across the lawn, standing with his pristine, beautiful bride, Serena. Ken's eyes locked onto Maya's for a split second, and the smug, predatory smirk he gave her was confirmation. This was purely an act of malice. He was savoring her humiliation before it even began. The cocktail hour began. The music leader called Maya up with a rushed, almost apologetic tone. Maya walked onto the small, elevated stage near the massive fountain. She set up her guitar, her hands trembling slightly, but her face a mask of serene professionalism. Then came Ken. He sauntered over, microphone in hand, interrupting the bandleader. "Excuse me, everyone. Before our next performer, I just want to say a few words. This lovely young lady, she's an old friend. A very, very struggling old friend. But we believe in giving people a leg up, right? So let's give a big, generous hand to to the singer who's here today because, well, because she needs the gig. Play is something pretty, honey. He emphasized the word, needs, a barb meant only for her. He walked away with a triumphant, sickening smile, expecting her to look down, to blush, to falter. The stage lights were hot. Maya looked at the crowd, hundreds of faces, some pitying, some indifferent. She looked down at her guitar, took a deep breath, and felt the immense weight of the moment. Her fingers went to the fretboard. She was supposed to play Perfect by Ed Sheeran. But Ken's voice, his cruelty, echoed in her mind. Struggling. Needs the gig. Suddenly, her hands moved on their own. She started playing not the cover, but the raw, unreleased ballad she had written the night Ken had betrayed her and cost her the record deal. It was called The Unbreakable Light. The opening notes were a stark, minor key arpeggio, introspective, almost painfully fragile. And then, she opened her mouth. The voice that came out was not the voice of a nervous hired hand. It was the sound of a soul set free. Every single note carried the weight of those 2 years of struggle, the injustice, the loneliness, and the eventual triumph of her own spirit. The song was a story, asking questions like, did you think the darkness you gave me would extinguish the star? Or did you just give me the fuel to burn brighter? Her voice soared over the pretentious chatter of the guests. People stopped clinking their champagne glasses. Heads turned. The musicians in the backing band, who had never heard this song, looked at each other in stunned amazement, immediately adapting to her rhythm. Ken, across the lawn, was laughing at a joke 1 second, and the next, his face was frozen, the color draining from his cheeks like a broken faucet. Ken realized instantly what she was doing. This was not the pathetic, generic background music he had paid for. This was a direct, public, yet beautifully disguised confrontation. His eyes darted around, looking for the bandleader, ready to cut the mic. But he couldn't move. He was paralyzed by the song's intensity and the sight of his elite guests, including his future father-in-law, standing perfectly still, mesmerized. Serena, the beautiful bride, turned to Ken, her carefully constructed smile dissolving into confusion. Ken, what is this song? It's powerful. Did you know she had this in her? Ken just mumbled, it's just background noise, honey. It'll be over soon. But it wasn't noise. It was a cathedral of sound built from his cruelty, and it was echoing across the entire venue. And this is where the universe, or let's just say, God's perfect timing, stepped in. Sitting quietly at a reserved table, introduced just moments earlier, was Mr. Wallace Sterling, the legendary, reclusive music producer who hadn't signed a new artist in a decade. He was there as a distant acquaintance of the bride's family. As Maya hit the climactic, tear-jerking final note, Mr. Sterling rose slowly from his seat. He was a presence, a man whose silence commanded more attention than Ken's bragging ever could. Before anyone could applaud, before Ken could rush the stage, Mr. Sterling's deep, resonant voice cut through the silence. Stop the service. Stop everything. He looked directly at Maya. Young woman, what is your name? And who is the person who gifted you the pain to write that masterpiece? The mic was still hot. The entire wedding party, now a makeshift audience, held its breath. Ken looked like he was about to faint into the enormous cake. Maya looked at Mr. Sterling, then at Ken, and then back at the producer. She didn't name Ken. She didn't have to. She used her words, the same way she used her music, with grace and absolute truth. My name is Maya, and the person who inspired this song was a man who told me my dreams were cheap, my voice was small, and that I would never rise above needing his permission to succeed. When he left me, he didn't just break my heart, he tried to take my future. I wrote this song 2 years ago, the night I understood that some men believe a woman's light must be extinguished so theirs can look brighter. But, sir, I realized my light is unbreakable. The applause that followed wasn't polite, it was a furious, celebratory roar. Ken, having been exposed in front of the exact people whose respect he craved, started shouting into his hand, trying to get the bandleader to cut the power. The bride, Serena, looked horrified, turning from her groom to Maya, putting the pieces together. The perfect, polished wedding had utterly collapsed. Mr. Sterling walked right up to the stage. He didn't speak to Ken or Serena. He only spoke to Maya, loud enough for the microphone to catch his every word. Maya, I have been looking for honesty like that for 10 years. You have a story in your voice. You have an album, a career, a movement. Forget this place. Forget this gig. Get your guitar. My car is waiting. We're going to my studio, and we are not stopping until this song is recorded. I'll quadruple that pathetic fee he paid you just for the audacity of showing up. You're coming with me. Before Maya could even process the weight of that offer, something else happened. A young woman in the crowd, a lifestyle journalist who was covering the wedding ironically, because Ken insisted on the publicity, stepped forward, waving her phone. Mr. Sterling, I got the whole thing. The performance, the confession, the offer. I'm sending it out right now. And just like that, the universe hit the upload button. The clip, raw, emotional, titled, "Singer Hired to Be Humiliated Gets Signed on Stage," exploded. Within the next 24 hours, Maya wasn't just signed, she was viral. The video, watched millions of times, resonated with every person who had ever been told they weren't good enough by someone they loved. Her face was everywhere. People were demanding to hear the full song. The next 48 hours were a blur. Maya didn't go back home, she went straight into Mr. Sterling's state-of-the-art studio. Ken's wedding was a footnote in the news, Maya's name was the headline. Mr. Sterling didn't waste a second. He had an entire team working around the clock. He treated Maya not as an artist, but as a queen, telling her, "Your honesty is gold, Maya. We don't polish it, we amplify it." She recorded "The Unbreakable Light" first, pouring all the pent-up emotion from the betrayal, the survival, and the shock into the track. The entire experience was therapeutic, turning the last vestiges of Ken's cruelty into pure, resonant power. Her life had completely pivoted on a single high note sung at the exact moment Ken thought he had won. 3 months later, the album dropped. It was called Karma's Melody. The lead single, of course, was The Unbreakable Light, and it wasn't just a hit, it was an anthem. It shot to #1 faster than anyone expected, fueled by the massive, inspiring story of its birth. People didn't just buy the album, they bought the message. Maya started appearing on major talk shows, and they always asked about the moment. She never named Ken, but she always delivered the deeper message. This song is for anyone who was ever dimmed by someone who was intimidated by their potential. Your pain is not your prison, it is the material for your magnum opus. God, or whatever force you believe in, used Ken's arrogance to give Maya the biggest, most undeniable platform imaginable. And Ken. Oh, Ken. The karma was immediate, public, and brutal. The wedding was a disaster. Serena, realizing Ken was a calculating liar, left him weeks later. But worse than that, his reputation, his entire currency, was ruined. His business partners and clients, people who valued image and integrity, saw the full, vicious truth of his character in that viral video and Maya's subsequent rise. He was seen not as the successful businessman he pretended to be, but as a small, insecure man who actively tried to crush a woman's livelihood to soothe his own ego. He became a punchline, the groom who got owned by karma. He lost clients, credibility, and eventually, the very house he thought made him untouchable. He tried to contact Maya years later to congratulate her. She had her assistant simply send him a signed copy of her platinum album. No message. So, my friends, that's the story of Maya, Ken, and the Unforgettable Serenade. It's a powerful, beautiful, and absolutely true example of how the universe protects the kind-hearted and eventually serves justice to the cruel. And if you take one thing from this story, let it be this, and this is my advice to all the men watching: please, stop treating women badly. Stop seeing their potential as a threat. Stop trying to dim their light just to feel a little bit brighter yourself. A woman's success should be a source of pride, not an object of control or sabotage. The world has enough broken hearts. What it truly needs are more men who are strong enough to let a woman shine beside them, even if she shines brighter. If you choose malice, the universe will find a way to make your arrogance the foundation for her castle. Maya's still touring, still writing, still shining her unbreakable light. She is living proof that sometimes, the biggest blessing comes dressed as the worst betrayal. What did you think of the story? Should we talk about Maya's second album, or maybe dive deeper into the moment Mr. Sterling decided to intervene? Let me know. Thank you so much for watching this African tale. Where are you watching from? Please, drop your thoughts in the comments section, I'd love to know. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring African stories. Remember, love, faith, and courage are the greatest treasures you can ever have. God bless you all. Bye.